Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatühü. Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters, friends of my life, friends of my heart,
Allah'a sonsuz hamd ve şükrediyoruz ki
I thank and praise Allah Ta'ala countless times that one more time we are all together at another discourse to talk about Allah Ta'ala.
Allah hepinizden razı olsun.
May Allah bless you all.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
hepimiz Allah Teala'nın bize tayin ettiği ömür kadar yaşarız.
we can only live as much as Allah wants us to live in this world. There is nothing else to it.
Allah Teala ezelden hepimizin sahibidir.
Allah is the owner of us even before the time.
Ömrünü Allah Teala tayin eder.
And Allah decides how long we will be living.
Herkesin
And Allah also decides under what circumstances,
nerede
how,
ve ne zaman
where, and when we will be dying as well.
malumudur. İnsan adı verilen mahluk Allah'ın ruhu
Creatures
bir mahluk
that are called human beings
çok özel bir yerin.
are very special amongst all creatures as Allah blown into them from His Spirit.
Öyleyse sadece insan olarak yaratıldığımız için bile
Therefore, simply because we are created as a human being, it's not enough how much we thank and praise Allah. My dear brothers and sisters,
yer.
this place called planet Earth,
O hayatı geçireceğimiz yer küresidir.
it is the place that we will be spending rest of our lives as long as Allah wants us to live.
Baki kalan
As the old-timers would have said, it is a nice voice within this ever-existing place.
kardeşlerim, biz öldükten sonra
What would we lose if people make nice statements after we pass away?
bir şeyler söyleyenler, güzel şeyler söyleseler, ne kaybederiz ki?
We have nothing to lose if that is the case.
Kendimizi başka insanların mutluluğuna adamışsak,
If we have dedicated ourselves to the happiness of others, if that's our purpose of living,
ve insanlar gerçekten tabiiyetten sonra bu mutluluğu yaşıyorlarsa,
if people truly go through that happiness and joy after a pledge of allegiance,
bize verdiği görevi yerine getirenler.
then we are the ones who are fulfilling the commands of Allah.
Ömür boyunca hep kendimizi başka
We should dedicate ourselves to the happiness of others throughout our lives.
ve bilmeliyiz ki
And we should know that
olanlar
those who are the happiest
mutlu,
are the ones who make others happy.
başkalarını mutlu
They are the ones
kılanlar
whose purposes are to make others happy.
hedef itaat edenlerdir.
They live for that reason.
Öyleyse bir dünya insanlar.
There is a planet Earth and there are so many people living on it. And what's the result?
Olalım.
Doesn't matter what we are.
Allah'ın katında değerimiz ne olursa olsun. Ama sevgili kardeşlerim,
Whatever our place in the presence of Allah is, yet,
geleceği
my dear brothers and sisters, at the end,
ya geç.
we will all die, sooner or later.
Öyleyse biliyoruz ki uzun yaşayacağız.
I know that I will be living a long time
Gezegende
within this planet called Earth.
insandan
I'm only one out of billions of people.
ama o sözü unutmayalım. Baki kalan bu kubbede
But never forget that statement. It was a nice sound within that everlasting place.
Geri kalanlar hep insanların güzellikle, mutlulukla anacağı hatıralar olmalı.
What should be left from us to other people should be the things that people remember nicely. Every week we get together with you numerous times. Every time we go through a different topic, we have a different discourse.
Mutluluk içinde bir dersler dizisi.
And series of lessons in happiness and joy. My dear brothers and sisters,
Diyorsanız,
if you are talking about Allah,
bunun için sebep yoktur.
then there is no reason for you not to be happy.
Sevmek başlı başına bir mutluluktur.
To talk about Allah itself is happiness and joy.
Allah'tan bahsetmenin
The most important part of talking about Allah is the individual to talk about Allah within himself. In other words, saying Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah loud, or
diye sessiz olarak
silent zikr of Allah.
dilini
He can also do that without moving the tongue.
O zaman iç sesinizle
Then you use your inner voice, but without using your tongue, you repeat the name of Allah.
Kiramen katibe melekleri hepsini
Kiramen Katiben angels hear and feel each and every one of these zikr.
derecat kazanır.
Doing zikr is the most important part of gaining positive degrees.
Geniş kapsamlı
And why is that the case?
zaman parçasının
Because within 24 hours,
tamamında
to do zikr within every second of that 24 hours is a possibility.
24 saat boyunca devamlı derecat kazanır.
Then the individual will be constantly gaining degrees within that 24 hours.
Kazanmak önemli mi?
Is it important to gain positive degrees?
Zannedildiği kadar önemli değil.
Not at all. Not as much as people would think.
Allah'a ulaşmayı diledikten sonra
Because after the individual makes the wish to reach Allah, will find a murshid, as Allah will deliver the individual to the murshid,
ona zikir zevkini verir.
then Allah will give the individual the love of zikr.
Kalbini
And the individual will start doing zikr and fill the soul's heart with 51% glories.
ona bunu yaptırır.
Allah will have the individual go through that,
Yaşanır bu.
and the individual will have that as a great joy within that 7 to 8 months.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
hepimiz netice itibariyle sadece birer yaratıkız.
consequently, each and every one of us are only creatures
Bizleri halk etmiş,
as Allah created us.
daha Türkçe bir tabirle yaratmış. İşte Allah Teala tarafından yaratılan
We are all creatures of Allah, as human beings, as the creatures of Allah.
niçin yarattığını
We need to know why Allah Ta'ala created us.
bir göz atmalıyız.
We have to know that idea. Why are we created?
Sadece bir tek sebep var.
There is only one reason behind that, my dear brothers and sisters.
Etrafımızdaki insanları mutlu etmek için.
To make others
Herkesi mutlu etmek.
that are around us to be happy.
İşte
To make everyone happy.
bilgisayar konuşmaları, televizyondaki
These conversations on the computers, on TVs, each and every one of them are for that reason. They're all for the same purpose,
mutlu.
to make others happy.
Bir insanın mutlu olmasının en kolay yolu
The easiest way for someone to be happy
etmek.
is to make others happy.
Öyleyse bu istikamette elimizden gelen bütün gayreti sarf etmeliyiz.
Therefore, we need to do everything in order to do that. In other words,
Dedikleri zaman
when other people talk about us,
onların her hallerinden bizi çok sevdikleri,
it should be obvious that they love us
bir
for
başkasını
everything they say and do.
nasıl sever,
Why would someone love the other individual?
onlara iyi davrandıysa davransa,
If the individual was treating them right
güzelliği ölçüsünde kişi
in the measure of their nice behavior, they will be loved.
sual sormalısın.
Every day you need to ask yourself a question.
Başka insanlar için ne yaptım?
What have I done today for other people?
Daha biraz ötesi,
Even beyond that,
bugün başka insanları mutlu etmek için
what have I done for other people to make them happy today?
sadece bu olduğunu bilin.
No, that is the only duty that you have.
Başka insanları mutlu ederken
When you are making others happy, actually you will be
ne
happy.
kadar mutluluk vermişseniz
Level of happiness that you give to others, Allah will certainly give you more than that happiness as a divine happiness.
Allah adeta sizin mutluluğunuzun aynasıdır.
Allah is literally a mirror of your happiness.
Size aksettiren
Allah will reflect the happiness that you give to others directly to you, which will provide your happiness.
sizi seviyor mu?
Is Allah
Seviyor mu?
loving you or not?
Eğer mutluysanız
If you are happy,
sevdiğinden
then you can be certain that Allah loves you.
çünkü mutluluk
Because the happiness cannot be practiced with the knowledge of this world,
yaşanır.
but with the spiritual knowledge.
Başka insanları mutlu etmek istikametinde bir gayretiniz yoksa
If you are not working to make other people happy,
mutlu olamazsınız.
then you cannot be happy yourself.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
daimi zikir kesintisiz bir mutluluğu ifade eder.
continuous zikr refers to uninterrupted happiness and joy, and that is your relationship with Allah.
Bu kesintisiz mutluluğun içerisinde
But within this uninterrupted happiness and joy,
bize adamışsanız
if you dedicated yourself to serve others,
etmeye,
if you dedicated yourself to make others happy,
o zaman 2 kat mutluluğu yaşarsınız.
then you experience double of the happiness.
Bu mutluluğu
That is the happiness because of your zikr,
ile beraber
and along with that zikr,
kesintisiz bir zikrin sahibi olduğunuzu düşünüyoruz.
imagining that you have continuous zikr, and also the happiness of making others happy.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
hepinizi sever.
Allah Ta'ala loves you all.
Hepinizin mutlu olmasını istemesinin arkasında
The reason that Allah wants you all to be happy is
saadetiniz.
your prosperity and joy.
Allah ister ki herkes mutlu olsun.
Allah Ta'ala would like everyone to be happy.
Allah'ın yarattığı mahluklar
All creatures that Allah created as human beings, for them all to be happy.
işte Allah Teala'nın bütün insanların istediği şey
What Allah Ta'ala wants from every individual is to experience happiness and joy.
Allah'tan geçer.
And that path certainly goes through Allah.
Devreye girmemesi halinde
In case Allah is not there,
mutluluğu yaşama
then nobody can experience happiness nor joy.
dünyasında mutlu olmasıdır.
Happiness is the individual to be happy within the inner world,
Dünyasında
the individual to be happy in the exterior world, in other words, in his relations with other people around.
Allah ile olan
And it is also happiness in our relations with Allah.
böylece iç dünyadaki mutluluk kendi içinizdeki mutluluktur. Dış dünyadaki mutluluk başka
Inner happiness is your own happiness. Exterior happiness is your happiness with other people around you. But the important thing is your happiness in your relations with Allah. And the only medication for that is zikr.
Peki bir insan zikir yapsa hep
Well, if the individual constantly does zikr without fulfilling any other religious services, that is not a possibility. And why not?
Çünkü zikir yapan bir insan
Because the individual who is doing zikr is such a moral
ibadetlerini yapmaması değil,
and training
en güzelin altında yapması
that
söz konusu.
wouldn't be possible for that individual not to fulfill religious services, but his religious services will be always the best. Why is that the case?
Allah
Because since the individual is in continuous zikr, Allah will take over his free will and will have that individual fulfill every religious service. Allah will fulfill his worshipping because Allah takes over his spirit first, then his physical body, then his soul, which is 3, and finally Allah Ta'ala takes over the free will of the individual after continuous zikr.
ruhun
Submission of spirit, physical body, soul, and free will to Allah.
bu temel teslimleri içerir.
These are the basic submissions.
Mutluluk da ruhun tesliminde %51,
And happiness is 51% at the submission of spirit, 81% at the submission of physical body, and 100% at the submission of soul and free will.
olmasını
As there will be 100% glories filling the soul's heart at that point. And what does that mean?
da kendisi demek.
That means exactly happiness and joy.
Da
Within your inner world,
kavgasız bir hayat sürüyorsa,
where there is no more quarrel. In other words, you finish the fight between your soul and spirit,
artık ruhunuz gibi davranıyorsa,
and therefore your soul is acting like your spirit, fulfilling every command of Allah and not doing anything Allah prohibits.
tam olarak yerine getirmesi ne demek?
What does that mean to fulfill every command of Allah?
Demek. Çünkü
That means to have continuous zikr.
ara sıra zikretmemizi farz kılıyor.
Because Allah Ta'ala obligates us to do zikr every once in a while, that's one.
Farz kılıyor.
Obligates us to do zikr more than half of the day, two.
Otururken
And also to do zikr when we are standing, sitting, and lying on our sides.
de farz kılıyor.
That's 3.
İnsan 3 halde bulunabilir.
An individual can be in 3 forms, either sitting down as I'm sitting right now, or standing up,
Da yatıyor.
or lying down.
Burada yenüstü yapması Allah Teala tarafından mutlaka istenir.
And Allah Ta'ala wants people to lie on their sides. And why is that?
Yenüstü yaptığı zaman
Because when the individual is lying down on his or her side,
Allah kelimesinin tekrarını
will be able to hear the heartbeats in his ear.
bağlı olarak
Based on the heartbeats,
diyecektir.
will have zikr.
Kalbiniz böyle atar.
That's how your heart beats. And you say Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah.
Sesli zikir yapabilirsiniz
You can do loud one,
diye. Sessiz
you
zikir
can do a silent one,
veya dilinizle
or without even using your tongue,
diye kalbi zikir.
and you do zikr from the heart.
İşte bu kalbi
The other type of the zikr of the heart is
zikri
putting your finger on your pulse by your wrist,
paralel bir şey.
and based on your heartbeats doing zikr.
O zaman sevgili kardeşlerim, kalbinizin atışlarına paralel bir şekilde
Then based on your heartbeats without using your tongue, with your inner voice, you repeat the name of Allah.
sağlam bir temele istinad eder.
That is on a strong base.
Ve daima yenüstü yapmaya çalışın.
Therefore, always try to lie on your side.
Kulağınız
Therefore,
yerde
your ear should be on the pillow.
sağınıza alarak yatan.
Make sure Kaaba should be on your right hand side as you are facing Kaaba when you are in bed.
Gecelerinizi mutlulukla geçirirsiniz.
Then you're going to spend your night in joy and happiness as well.
İlk defa sabahleyin uyandığınızda
When you wake up in the morning with zikr as a first time, imagine how happy you will be.
hep böyle olacak.
And that will be the case throughout your life.
Allah'ı zikretmektesiniz.
You are still doing zikr of Allah when you wake up.
O zaman bir gün gözleriniz açıkken de melekleri görebilirsiniz.
Then even when your eyes are open, you can see the angels one day. Allah will let you see
Kanatlı melekler.
angels with their wings.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
Allah'ın nimeti boldur.
Allah's blessings are in abundance,
Bu nimeti dağıtmak için
and Allah is ready to give these blessings to everyone.
hedefler gösterir.
Therefore, He has certain purposes for you to fulfill.
Bu zevki, bu sevgiyi, bu aşkı
And Allah Ta'ala puts that love, that joy into people. And Allah is ready to give that.
insanlar serbest iradeyle yaratıldı.
Yet every individual has been created with a free will. Since that is the case,
Bunları yapar,
those who wish will fulfill these
zevk alır,
and will have that joy
yaşar.
and go through that happiness and joy throughout his or her life. And those who do not wish for that will not fulfill.
En az zikreden
There will be always a group of people from those who do much zikr to those who do no zikr. That will always be the case at every time. Not to have any zikr is a great mistake. The individual to stop his or her own happiness.
bir şeyi içerken bile her yudumda bir Allah kelimesi zikretmek
Even when you are sipping something
gereği değil.
to do zikr of Allah but not using your tongue, doing that from the heart is a great joy.
Tekrar eden kişi
Individual who repeats the name of Allah is the one who goes through that joy and happiness.
huzurun yegane
Zikr is the only way of your
sesidir.
peace in this world.
Dünyada verilen bu
You will
gezegende
spend your life in this planet called Earth,
geçirdik.
as I did.
1930
Since my birth is in 1933, my age is 77.
sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
böyle bir dünyada yaşamak
to live in such a world,
eğer bir mutluluğu gerektiriyorsa
if that requires happiness and joy,
bu mutluluk zikirsiz yakalanamaz.
nobody can capture that happiness and joy without zikr.
Kalbinize Allah'ın nurlarını dolduracak olan tek ibadet
Only religious service that will bring glories of Allah into your soul's heart is zikr.
Allah kelimesini tekrar etmediğiniz sürece
If you do not repeat the name of Allah,
sizin kalbine Allah'ın nurları
glories of Allah cannot get into your soul's heart.
reçete Allah kelimesinin tekrarı yani Allah
The prescription is repeating the name of Allah. In other words, zikr.
Allah zikri kim Allah'ı zikretmeye başlarsa başladığı noktadan
Whoever starts doing zikr of Allah from the point of start to the point of end,
Allah'ın nurların
glories of Allah will be filling into the soul's heart of that individual. Allah certainly will make that happen.
acaba kişinin bir özelliği olması gerekir mi?
Should the individual have any specialty? Yes, indeed.
Bir insan Allah'a ulaşmayı dilemeden, Allah'ın gösterdiği mürşide tabi olmadan,
Without making the wish to reach Allah, or without taking a pledge of allegiance to the murshid that Allah shows, that zikr would not make that individual gain anything, because the doors are closed.
ama kim Allah'a ulaşmayı dilerse,
But whomever makes the wish to reach Allah, starting from this point on, the gain will start, but pledge of allegiance is very critical, because only after the pledge of allegiance to a murshid,
içine
the glories will start penetrating the soul's heart.
Allah'a ulaşmayı dilemek meselenin başlangıç.
Making the wish to reach Allah is the starting point.
Allah'ın kalbinizin kapısında gerekli işlemleri yapması gerekir.
Because Allah needs to do
Allah'a
certain
ulaşmayı dilemek
processes with your heart.
birinci fasıl,
Making the wish to reach Allah is the first stage. Pledge of allegiance to a murshid is the second stage.
tabiyetle beraber
Along with pledge of allegiance,
başlaması,
cleansing of the soul to start.
nurların dolmaya başlaması,
Glories of Allah start getting into the soul's heart
rahmet nurundan sonra
after the initial 2% mercy all the way to 98% of accumulation of the virtues,
karanlıkların hepsinden
where the soul's heart will be coming out of darkness and getting into glories of Allah.
başlangıçta
At the beginning, everybody's soul's heart are pitch dark, full of vices,
kin,
anger, grudge, jealousy, enmity, addictions, etc.
bu afetler yerlerini hasletlere terk edeceklerdir.
With the accumulation of the glories, these vices will be replaced with righteousness.
Bütün güzellikler
Hatred will be replaced with love.
açan tomurcuklar olarak giderek
Glories will be blossoming the roses in the soul's heart, and the heart will be much better.
sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
öyle bir müessesedir ki
this is such a concept that
en güzele ulaştırır.
it will bring each and every one of you to perfection.
Allah ne istiyor?
What is it that Allah wants?
Mutlu olmasını istiyor.
Allah Ta'ala wants all people to be happy and joyous. Does He have His rules? Yes, indeed. Allah Ta'ala says, make the wish to reach Allah.
Bir, iki,
1.
kendinize
2.
tabi olun diyor.
Take a pledge of allegiance to your murshid, says Allah Ta'ala. 3.
Allah'a
Allah Ta'ala says, render your spirit back to me before death. Allah Ta'ala says, submit your physical body to me.
muhlis olun diyor.
Allah Ta'ala says, become a muhlis one, a pure individual.
Fizik vücudunuzu Allah'a teslimden sonra o
After submitting physical body, the individual
konusu oluyor.
needs to get to continuous zikr,
Ötesi
and beyond continuous zikr,
bir kişinin muhlis olması ondan sonra
individual to become a muhlis one,
konusu oluyor.
in other words, to become a pure one, and then to submit free will to Allah.
Zikre ulaşmak.
With continuous zikr, you become ulul albab, then you become a muhlis one, a totally pure individual.
Cevabın ötesi var mı?
Do we have something beyond that?
Ondan sonra kişi
Yes, indeed.
nüplerin sahipleri olarak
Ulul albab is the owner of the loops, owner of the secrets.
bir noktaya doğru
With that, the individual will be getting to the point to submit the free will to Allah as well.
ve fizik vücudu
Submission of spirit, submission of physical body, submission of soul, and submission of free will.
ruhun teslimi %50
Submission of spirit
tamamlanır.
takes place with 51% glory accumulation.
Birinci teslimi
That is the first submission, submission of spirit.
sonra fizik beden teslim olur.
Then physical body submits, that is the second submission. Then soul submits, that is the third submission. Then free will submits, and that is the fourth and last submission.
Nefsin teslimi ve iradenin teslimi
Submission of soul and submission of free will takes place only with free will.
bu kademe ulul elbab, ihlas ve salah makamlarında.
These are ulul elbab, ihlas and salah posts.
Öyleyse bütün insanlar için Allah yolunda merhale kat etmek, mesafe kat etmek,
To go through these processes on the path of Allah for every individual is only possible if the zikr constantly gets increased.
5 vakit namaz 7 vakitte çıkmıştır.
5 times prayers are now 7 times for that individual.
Mevcut 5 vakitte sabah, öğle, ikindi,
Morning, noon, afternoon, evening, night.
sabah namazı
The individual adds between morning prayer and noon prayer
bir ilave
shruk,
namazla ve yatsıyla
and between night prayer and morning prayer,
akşam namazı arasında
the individual adds tahajjud.
sabah namazıyla öğle namazı arasında akşam namazıyla
So there are 2 more prayers
yatsı namazı arasında
that is put between morning prayer and noon prayer shuruk, and between night prayer and morning prayer tahajjud.
ve teheccüd sünneti.
Shuruk and tahajjud. 2 additional times.
İnsanlar için farz kılınan namaz 5 vakittir. Sabah,
Prayer that is an obligation are actually 5 times: morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and night.
akşam namazıyla yatsı namazı, bunun ötesinde yatsı namazıyla sabah
But after night prayer all the way to morning prayer,
teheccüd sünneti diye
there is tahajjud, and between morning prayer and noon prayer there is shuruk. There are 2 sunnahs.
yatsı namazıyla sabah namazı arasında teheccüd sünneti kılınır.
Between night prayer and morning you perform tahajjud as a sunnah,
Bir de kuşluk sünneti.
and between morning and noon prayer you perform shuruk.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
tüm bu sistemler
all these systems
Allah tarafından
have been delivered to every individual by Allah and His beloveds.
ulaştırılmıştır. Allah'ın
The highest creatures that Allah created in the universe are the human beings who are blown a spirit directly from Allah. Creatures that are closest to Allah, therefore, are the human beings.
Allah'ın ruhuna başlangıçta sahip olması dolayısıyla
Because initially the human beings have the spirit of Allah, therefore they are superior to jinn.
vardır.
Even though jinn has Rasuls as well, but human Rasuls are also superior to them.
Devrin imamı
Imam of the time
gerçekleşir.
is always picked amongst the human beings.
Namazın imamı bir insan.
Imam of the time is the spirit of a human being.
Öyleyse insan olmak Allah Teala'nın bir lütfu keremidir.
Therefore, to be a human being is a blessing of Allah.
Allah bizi insan hüviyetine
Simply because Allah created us all as a human being,
etmeliyiz.
we need to be thankful and praiseful to Allah, my dear brothers and sisters.
Hamd ve şükür müessesesi dizaynında
Within the design of being thankful and praiseful is everything so wonderful.
bu güzellikleri bozmasa dediğinde şeytan elinden gelen her
And Satan will do anything and everything to eliminate all these happinesses and joy.
aldanmayın.
Never be fooled by Satan.
Veya kim namazdan alıkoymaya çalışıyorsa,
Whatever or whomever is trying to keep you away from prayer,
ne yapmaya çalışıyorsa,
that means
şeytan o kişiyi
if that is an individual, Satan is influencing that individual.
veya doğrudan doğruya bu istikamette bir şey hissediyorsa kişi,
Or the individual is feeling something about that directly, not to perform the prayer.
o zaman bu istek gene
That means
bilin ki
this is the whisper of Satan.
herkesin etrafında şeytan mutlaka
There are
var.
always certain numbers of Satans around everyone.
Sadece bir tane şeytan.
When we say Lucifer, there's only one Satan.
Herkesin etrafında
But amongst everyone, not one, but several Satans at all times.
öyleyse her yaptığınızı görürler.
Therefore, they see everything that you do,
Size yanlış yaptırmak için
and they know everything that you do. And in order to make you fail, it's even better to say,
yaptırmamak için
not to have you complete the commands of Allah, one, and to have you do what Allah prohibits.
ayrı ayrı cephelerde
They will do anything and everything
tüm gayretleriyle sizin sevap
with all
kazanmanızı,
their
günah
efforts.
kazanmanızı
Instead of having you gain positive degrees, they will try to have you gain negative degrees.
isterdir. Ve
They are the negative jinn and Satans trying to do that to you. My dear brothers and sisters,
insan adı verilen sizlerin düşmanıdır.
all Satans are against every human being.
Allah'a ulaşmayı dilediyseniz
But if you make the wish to reach Allah,
tabi olacaksınız.
then you will take a pledge of allegiance to your murshid, your religious guide, and as soon as you do that, spirit of the Imam of the time will appear upon you.
İtibaren
From that point on,
şeytan size o istikamette bir tesirin sahibi,
Satan cannot influence you till your spirit returns back to Allah.
yatay olarak
Spirit of the Imam of the time will be parallel to the ground upon you as his arms open.
Kur'an-ı Kerim'de
Therefore, within the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says,
bunu ger diyor.
open your wings on them.
Kanatlar sağ ve sol koldur.
Wings are the right and left arms.
Ne? Devrin imamın ruhu
Spirit of the Imam of the time appears every individual who wishes to reach Allah
yere paralel bir şekilde yer alır.
and will be upon that individual parallel to the ground.
İşte o iblisin telkinlerinden, işte o
That individual will be free of the whispers of Satan
göndermesinden
and from the darknesses of Satan. That is the spirit of the Imam of the time.
her devirde
At all times,
binlerce ruhu
thousands of spirits of the Imam of the time will be upon thousands of people.
yüz binlerce kişinin başının üzerinde
We can even say hundreds of thousands of people,
ve görev yapar.
and will be fulfilling its duty upon those people.
Mutlaka
Imam of the time has to be an individual who is a living being.
hayatta olmak söz konusu olmasaydı
If that was not the case,
devrin imamının
then
peygamber
upon everyone it wouldn't be the spirit of the Imam of the time, but the spirit of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that is not the case. Imam of the time has to be a living individual.
şu büyük
My dear brothers and sisters, you should never forget this great fact.
yarattığı herkesi sever.
Allah Ta'ala loves every individual who is created as a human being.
Cehenneme gitsin.
Allah Ta'ala wants all people to go to heaven.
Herkes kendisini kurtarsın.
Allah wants everyone to save himself or herself. Therefore, Allah Ta'ala have sent down Torah, Bible, and the Quran.
Ayrı ayrı zamanlarda indirilen bu üç tane kitaba var.
These holy scriptures that are sent in different times, once we take a look at them,
bir farkları olmadığını
in the core you realize that they are not different than each other. All three holy scriptures indicate 7 stages and 4 submissions. Wishing to reach Allah, pledge of allegiance to a murshid, spirit to be returned back to Allah, submission of physical body to Allah, submitting soul to Allah, to become a muhlis one, pure one, and to submit free will to Allah.
İşlerim
My dear brothers and sisters,
insanlar için geçerli olan bir muhteva söz konusu.
this is the concept that is for every individual.
En kolayı ruhu Allah'a teslim etmektir.
The simplest one is to submit spirit to Allah. Allah takes upon himself as a duty. Allah Ta'ala says, whomever wishes to reach me, I deliver them to myself.
Bunu yaptığı zaman o kişinin nefsinin kalbi
Once Allah Ta'ala does that, the individual soul's heart has 49% virtues and 2% mercy, which is 51% glories altogether. The spirit will go through 7 of the heavens. At every level of heavens, that will be 7% virtue accumulation in the soul's heart, providing the spirit to go from one heaven level to another. With 49% virtue accumulation and 2% mercy, you will have 51% glory accumulation. Your spirit will return back to Allah. Steep hill starts after that. To submit physical body requires more than 81% of glory accumulation. To do zikr more than half of the day. After the steep hill, getting into continuous zikr will not be difficult whatsoever. Asking Allah Ta'ala to grant all these points to each and every one of you is my prayer. Asking Allah to help you to submit your spirit, physical body, soul and free will to Allah. Asking that from the Almighty, I finish my statements at this point, inshallah. My dear brothers and sisters, friends of my life, friends of my heart, I love you all very, very much. May Allah bless you all.
Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu.